Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Perry Drake. I am the co-chair of the Marketing Department here at the University of Missouri St. Louis, and we're here today to talk to some local experts and other academics about the field of marketing as a career, what we as a university are trying to do to prepare students, and what they could look towards in terms of opportunities, and things along those lines. So let me go around and I'll just introduce everybody today. So with me is Dr. Michael Elliot. He is the Associate Dean of the College Business of Undergraduate Studies. So welcome, Michael.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, we've got Sarah Dalton, who is the Director of Marketing at Nolan and Associates, and she is also an adjunct faculty member, so she'll talk about some of the classes she teaches here at the university. We've got Elizabeth Ledbetter, the Vice President, long title Elizabeth, Vice President, Metro Market Manager of TCG, and Robert Half Technology at the Creative Group, so welcome. We've got Pam Franklin, who is a Senior Recruiter for Spectrum. We've got Danielle Lukens, who's the Intern Development Director, Officer at Northwest Mutual in Clayton. And we've got Avery Pidgeot, who is the Director of Talent Development at Fleshman Hillard. So welcome, everybody. I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to come chat with us about kind of marketing is a career, things along those lines. So I think some of you guys have seen the recent article that GlassDoor has published, where they have listed marketing as the third best job out there in America at the moment, with a fairly high average salary for marketing managers as well. I mean, I would just love to start with some of you guys, whoever wants to jump in. Well, I'm just curious what your thoughts are. I mean, I know what my thoughts are, but I'd love to know what your thoughts are as to why marketing is so hot right now, and why did that actually get listed as the third, most popular job out there currently. I don't know who wants to take it first.
I can, I would just
Sure.
say digital transformation is the biggest need for that. So companies are putting a lot of their energy into new initiatives in regards to their digital transformation, whether that is their website or how they can interact with customers better, building their online presence. All of those things are at the forefront. As well as AI and data and all those things that come into marketing. So I think that's really what's driven the demand.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Anybody else have thoughts? Avery?
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with Elizabeth for sure. And then I just think there's so many transferable skills that you learn through a marketing education. My background is marketing. I'm in HR now, and I would say that I use a lot of the fundamental things I picked up in school really day to day. So I think a lot of it is just transferable.
Right.
Sure.
Great.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Sarah, you have any thoughts on?
I think it just to piggyback on what they said, we do so much on phones today and social media, and I think just everything has changed for businesses, and everything has changed, I think, a lot because of marketing and because of all these new channels of communication that we have out there. So I think that businesses that were doing things traditional have really had to think differently.
Right.
And a lot of that, they've had to rely on more marketing folks and people that really understand all these digital channels, hence the need for all that talent.
Right. I mean, I look at marketing, and it's just so much different than it was. It's so vast in terms of what it encompasses. It's content creation, it's video production, it's crisis management, it's content. I mean, it's just, and to find somebody that has those skills, or just a certain subset of those skills, is just not easy today.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, I think, what a lot of companies are
Right.
trying to find, which I think is exciting, totally exciting. Because again, a lot of our students that Michael and I teach, again, they'll go on and take all different types of jobs. The manager of social media at Anheuser-Busch, or video production specialist at a local agency, et cetera, which is kind of cool. So great.
Well,
So,
I think it's alarming too as a consumer if a brand doesn't have the website and the social media presence. I mean, is it really even a brand at this point any longer?
Right,
So I
right.
think everybody kind of understands that now. So it's not surprising that the marketing manager is number 3 on the
Right.
Glassdoor for
Right.
The positions within the industry and country
Yeah.
at this point.
And just
So-
how to get in touch with a customer
Right,
nowadays
right.
is just, it's a 360 approach. It's not a direct mail thing and that's how you got in touch with them. It's how are you interacting with them in every aspect of their day. And I think that's what's continued to evolve those roles for sure.
Right. So let me toss out another question. So and this is more for the recruiters, I guess. What is your biggest challenge in terms of finding good help in kind of the world of marketing? And what are you not finding, or
Right.
whatever the case might be?
I mean, I would say for me, I focus more so on the sales folks right now in my current role, and so I think we're all just kind of battling the low unemployment rate right now. I mean, I've been doing recruiting since 2011, and I think within the last year or so, it's probably the toughest time to be going through and finding candidates, just because, unemployment rate is so low, and we're really having to do a lot of sourcing and trying to pull people away from their current position, quite honestly. So I think that's the biggest challenge that I'm facing as a recruiter is
Right.
just, continuing to find good talent and build relationships with folks, and quite honestly build the bench so that maybe if they're not ready for a move right now, but 6 months from now, then at least having the relationship to where they can reach
So
out.
is
And
this causing salaries to go up somewhat? Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unemployment being at 2.8% for marketing. I mean, like, really, really low. And it's a job seekers market. So they are in the driver's seat. So as you say, like, supply and demand will always do that. So if you have those skills, market themselves, and be ready to be prepared. And so as employers and recruiters as ourselves, we have to then more sell ourselves to these
Sure.
individuals that are available, and why these opportunities are, maybe outweigh a different opportunity that they might have.
Right.
But to go back to kind of what's in demand, I think content creation, so people that are insanely strong writers, that is probably the fastest moving that we're seeing, because content now has to be refreshed instantly. It's not like, oh, you can have an article and it's good for a month, right?
Right.
It's every 5 minutes you have to have new engaging material. So I think that's one of the most in demand skills that we're seeing a lot.
Well, I have a related question. So if you're not a marketing major, so let's say you come from media studies or the English department, do you still have the same skill set as a student that's traditionally trained in marketing?
I would think so. Especially the ones that you mentioned, those all come around to content, because I think it's not just writing content; it's video content, it's social media, it's again, your approach of however you're trying to get in touch with that
Could be
customer.
audio, podcasting.
Exactly. So I think it's just how are you positioning yourselves as being a content strategist?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, and again, I'd love to know how important that is for you guys. I know it's definitely important for
Yeah,
freshmen,
freshmen.
is our students in the social media strategies class all have to create a digital portfolio, which I know Sarah has judged some of those for us at the end of the semester. But again, trying to get the students to showcase some of that, their ability to create good, compelling content. But that's almost a must for you guys to a certain
Yeah,
extent,
I mean,
right?
I would say that, that's almost more important, or a better demonstration of like your skills than maybe a resume.
Right.
So when I'm talking to students and asking for kind of like what we're looking for, again, it's like, how does your education and maybe your capstone class or something that you're kind of working on that's a real world example
Right.
might showcase what you would do,
Right.
in the role that you might be interviewing for.
Right,
So.
right.
I'm sorry, one of the questions I often get from students, I think a lot of students understand the types of entry-level jobs that they would get, but what about mid-career? So 10 years from now, how would the opportunities for a marketing student change 10 years from now as opposed to right now? How would they develop their career?
I was like, your guess is as good as mine 10 years from now, right? Because I don't even think some of the roles that we have today were in existence 10 years ago.
Right.
With, again, digital transformation being so fast. I mean, it's insane how quickly things are going. That, like, would a podcaster career be a thing 10 years ago?
Right.
Sure.
Probably not. It would have been different. It would have been maybe a radio,
Right.
something. So I think that's hard to say.
Yeah.
But I think what I've noticed is that people have become specialized. So they start in more of a generalist type of a role, maybe, and then over time they're learning specific skills to then evolve into a career path within
Sure.
communications, marketing,
Right.
media, whatever that might be. I mean, that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and I was thinking, again, it's hard to tell what this is going to look like in 10 years, but when you think about something like marketing, what I do know, no matter what business that we're in, attracting business to our firms, bringing on new business, and communicating the brand into the community, if you have those skill sets, even like if you develop those from entry level to mid level, what I know is those people have options. Like when you can bring on help, I know you have a huge role in that, bringing on business to a firm, communicating the brand. Those people are very sought after and build career equity within companies.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's interesting, the question, Michael, because it's like, we're training students in a way for jobs, I guess, that don't even exist yet.
Sure.
So,
Right.
so how well are we training the students for jobs that we don't even know what they are in the future?
We wish we had a crystal ball.
Yes,
We
me
could
too.
develop
Well, pass it
courses
on
now
to
that
find
5
it.
years
Right.
from now would
Right.
be in great demand.
Right.
And I think back to an earlier question you asked, my biggest thing that we're looking for is proactiveness. Because here's the deal, like I'm a financial firm, but we have so many different roles within our firm than just in the financial route. And so
Right.
many people pass us up because they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. But I never get the chance to tell you, well, wow, we've got this huge department over here that we may have an opportunity. So, when I think back, when I first started with the company 11 years ago, we were still kind of known as the quiet company. We didn't do a ton of advertising or billboards or any of these things. And to see how rapidly we've grown over the last 20 years, we didn't have a marketing department. That was HR kind of dabbled, and companies nowadays, if you don't have some sort of not only department but plan around that, you're completely left behind, so almost every company that you find in our community has some sort of opportunity from a marketing perspective.
Right.
And so don't prejudge just because you might not think that company's not for me.
Right. Yeah, especially in the financial services side,
Sure.
because it is really all about kind of relationships,
Yeah.
marketing, all of that sort of stuff. It's
Right.
not so much the finance you can teach them.
Sure.
That part of it, right?
Yeah.
Right. So what exactly is it? I know you mentioned kind of what you're looking for in a new employee. What are each of you guys kind of looking for? What's that critical thing you're looking for in a new employee, kind of in the world of marketing, communications, PR, that kind of end-all, be-all sort of magic thing you're looking for? And maybe it is something like just their creativity or their sense of, wanting to explore or learn. Sarah, I don't know.
I think for me, whenever I interview a candidate, it's that they'll kind of try anything and that they're willing to do any project that's put in front of them. Just because I work at a small company, so we don't have the luxury of having an email person or a social media person. We really need people that are willing to try to do everything. And we're very innovative, always trying new platforms, new CRM, new marketing systems. And so it needs to be someone that's willing to grow with the business and really grow with marketing trends. You could be hired to do one thing and then, no one really saw social media coming. So people had to figure that out kind of when it happened, and that's how a lot of marketing is occurring. So for me, it's people that are flexible and kind of willing to just jump on the ride.
And are you looking
Yeah.
for internships? Is that critical as well, that somebody has taken on an internship?
For me, it is definitely important to see that someone has done an internship or a large project, kind of like everyone said, something that just demonstrates that they've done something and tried something.
Okay.
I know that the last time I filled a position, the people that had an online portfolio definitely were in a different kind of level or pile, if you will, than the people that didn't. Just because before I even, thought about what, you could see their work right away.
Yeah, I think soft skills, and you mentioned a lot of those, and being a curious mind. You don't need to know everything about everything in marketing, but being someone that's curious and on the pulse and, following social media channels around trends and knowing what's kind of happening and different brands that are impactful in the world. I think that's something that employers and myself, they're always looking for, is that somebody's just they love this and they're ingrained in it. And I think that's really important because we know you're not going to know everything or have
Right.
done it because you just haven't had the time to. So I think that's really important, and to be able to demonstrate that. That goes with the portfolios, but just where your experience is. Could just be as a consumer, hey, as a consumer, and I'm a target market, these are the things that are intriguing to me, and I'd love to be involved in things like that. Those kinds of things, to be able to articulate. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the soft skills, to your point, is obviously really important, because I always told candidates, if you've got 3 out of the 4 skills, that 4th skill can be taught. but you've got to have the drive, you've got to have the willingness, you have to have that, coachable, ability to mentor and those types of things, type of personality in order to really want to learn that fourth skill set. So I think that that's even, bigger than what specific software skills that they have. It's just really more so the personality, and am I going to want to work with this person on a daily basis? Like, there's got to be some kind of, relationship and ability to communicate and, those types of things as well then too, which is equally as important in my mind as what the software skills look like.
Yeah, so I think outside a little bit of what's been said, an initial conversation with a candidate, I want to find something that lights them up. If I can get them whether it's a product, whether it's an experience, a project, something, if I can find that trigger and see like how they are when they're lit up about something. I used to say languages, we're looking for people that are going to add, fit in our culture. And I've kind of changed that a little this year of like, I want people that are going to enhance it. Because to your point, like with the social media example, and people didn't see that, I don't want to just do what everyone else is doing on Instagram stories. Like, I want you to have because if I can see that you're lit up about something, if that happens here, I can probably count on you like raising your hand and saying, I've got an idea for this. And not being, although you may not have the experience, the confidence to come forward and say, I've got a new idea and it may or may not work, but we're looking for that, enhancing the culture, not just like, can you fit in here?
That's great.
Yeah, and I second all the soft skills stuff. I think that we often see like the long-term success come from people that just are outstanding with their soft skills, and we're in a relationship management business, and so some of those are really key, but more of like the hard skills, and talking about digital transformation, people that are comfortable with data and being able to manage it, collect it, determine what it means. So we see a lot of needs in research and analytics and things that kind of tie to data.
Right. So, Michael, do you want to share? And I know some of the guys here know some of the new courses that we've been bringing to bear, but if you want to share some of that.
Well, with our undergraduate program, it's a 21-hour program, and what we've done over the last 5 years, there are like 2 or 3 areas that we put a lot of emphasis on. Digital and social media marketing is one of the areas that are very attractive to students. We also are moving into sales management to a certain extent. We have a sales management course, we have a personal selling course. We also have a customer relations management course that we're looking at. We've also made some inroads into sports marketing. We have our first sports marketing course. I'm part of a committee that's looking for additional faculty to teach business-related sports topics such as event marketing and things like that. So, and there's more to come. We're looking at different areas and testing the market and seeing what areas have the most demand. But our students are very receptive, especially to some of the experiential learning things that we do. And you have your labs that you are involved with, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I think you're getting a lot of good feedback about that as well.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So, Sarah, do you want to share a little bit of the new CRM class and how well that's going and why you see that as being critical and kind of what you're teaching? in there?
Definitely. So CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management, as everyone knows. So we think that that's a topic that's really important because I think there's very few businesses at this point that you could work at that don't have some kind of CRM system. So whether you're a marketing major, an English major, no matter what kind of company you're going to work at, profit, nonprofit, they're going to have some kind of system where your clients and your prospective clients or customers are tracked. Just think about how much you're tracked as a consumer is really the way that I start off talking to the class. Think of every field you filled out on a website and all the systems that you're in and all the data that's been captured on you. And I think that today the companies that can best capitalize on all that data they've collected and figure out how to exploit that to properly communicate with their customers are really going to continue winning. So I think my class obviously teaches some of the theory and strategy of customer relationship management, But what I think is really the main part are we do 3 certifications from a CRM called HubSpot, where the students actually get into that system, they log in, and they get certified 3 times, 3 different areas of that software. And then we do a Salesforce trail mix. So it's a pretty in-depth marketing-specific trail mix that they'll do where they'll learn a lot about Salesforce. So it's important to me in any class that I teach that the students get to take something away. It's not just a lecture and a PowerPoint. It's logging into these systems so that you can say to a future employer someday, you know, maybe I haven't used that before, but hey, I did this in college and I've at least I know what it looks like, right? So it's getting some real world experience in the classroom, which I think is very important.
So would that those sort of skill sets really stand out for Avery, you, and Elizabeth, for example, if you saw that a student had HubSpot certification or things along those lines?
Definitely. I
Right.
think those are very much in demand skill sets. So thank you guys for doing that, because I think there's not a lot of schools that are doing some of that real world stuff, and people are learning it on the fly. And employers are wanting that expertise and knowledge of that, whether you're an expert or not. You just know, okay, this is the purpose behind and the business thought of why we're doing this, and then how we can capitalize it from a marketing perspective or just a sales perspective. So yeah, that's stellar. And I'm thinking like 4 different jobs right now that are entry level, so I'm like, I'm going to have to ping some alumni, that would be great. Yeah.
What I think is super cool about that, like when I think of business, and I'm a little biased, I studied marketing myself, and I was set on my business degree, did not want to do finance or accounting. But when you think about like, okay, accounting, most of the time you're getting equipped to come out. You may have to do a couple extra classes to get the CPA, right? More targeted. Finance, same thing. CFP, CFA. Like what I'm hearing with these classes is like you're actually equipping them to like have real world practical, education within that subset of marketing. I think before, like when I graduated, I did it because it was broad. I'm like, I don't really know what I want to do. She talked about data and analytics, like getting into marketing, taking my capstone class. I'm like, that's not my jam. And that's okay, right? Like what I found is I lit up about the people side of things and the communications and the attraction. And so I think also going back to like, you don't have to know exactly what you want to do, but getting exposure to these classes you're mentioning can help you figure out like, where might my niche be? Because listen, we want agile people, right? We want people that can adapt, but I also want somebody that's really good at one thing,
Avery, anything you want to?
No, I mean, I think that adaptability is huge when you're entry level and coming out of school, because you don't know what you won't know yet.
Right.
And being innately interested in something and taking a variety of classes that expose you to different kind of things that you could focus on, I think is a really good way to kind of target yourself when you're getting ready to go out in your job search and, start looking on
So
job
are you guys
boards.
at Fleshman, are you guys looking for specific software skills per se?
I mean, there are
or-
certain things and tools that we use every day and on different teams, but I would say depending upon, what type of job you're looking for, I mean, certification is just that automatic stamp of approval.
Right.
And just from a, like, stand out on a resume or a LinkedIn profile, like, it's kind of that that automatic green light that, okay, this person kind of knows what's going on in that
It
space.
helps get them to that next
yeah,
step.
yeah. So.
Right.
Well, I have a question. Many of my students ask me, what can they expect the company, what type of training would they expect from the company? So within that first year, what type of orientation and onboarding occurs that get the employee up to a certain speed, within 6 months?
I mean, I can tell you from us, I mean, we're, a large organization. There are a lot of kind of corporate fundamentals that happen in the first, week. But then after that, I mean, a lot of it is, again, just being curious, being a hands-on learner and being really willing to learn through the work. I think that's where people get a lot of their development. At least initially, and then as you kind of learn what is your jam and what you might be really innately talented at, then I think that's where you might get more focused training sessions or kind of pick that area that you're going to be known to be really great at.
I mean,
So,
do you guys
yeah.
support personal development, I guess, as employees?
Yeah, I mean, for
I know
sure.
it's probably not to the extent it used to be, let's say, 20 years ago.
I think it's
I think it's probably more.
Do you
Yeah.
think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
What Avery was saying is like, I think, I know I can speak for my organization, but then places that we are working with that, as we're talking about brands being about customer engagement, employees or employers are doing that for employees.
Yes.
That's probably the number one question I get. What's your training program? And we've had to refine that over the years to be more, attractive to employees. So, and we want to show that we're investing in them. And so that's evolved to where it's ongoing training.
Yeah.
So that onboarding on the front end is way more intense than it ever was and more structured because people are curious and craving that. And then how can you continue to keep them engaged over time? And so I think that's to the point is that we have to do that.
Well, some
And
of
there's a
that's
lot of,
now some of that's a retention effort, though, too.
Right.
Exactly.
Because that's to keep good health.
right.
It's
And I
correct.
think that's
Right.
huge in the
Yeah.
unemployment,
Right.
market we're in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think companies do have good training programs, but I also think it's just important to always stay curious on your own. And there's a lot of really good online training. I even watch YouTube videos sometimes just
Yeah,
to.
yeah, absolutely.
I think you have to always kind of figure out what your specialty is going to be and kind of show the company that you can figure things out too.
So
There's
my
also
managing partner.
very costly, cost-effective conferences as
Yep,
well.
you can go to-
I was-
Like the
actually had that
Midwest
mentioned,
Marketing
yeah.
Department. Sorry.
So no, you're good. My managing partner literally said this morning, like, learning is better than knowing. And I'm somebody that considers myself an expert and like I have to have answers, but I totally reflected on that statement this morning and it's like, wow, where can I put myself in situations where, whether it's a organized conference or just educating myself. And then just going back to like this whole personal growth and development, like it's 2020. Like we want people bringing their whole selves to work, and it's like this whole work-life balance. And I feel like we as organizations, from a retention, the job market is booming. Like we have to do things differently in terms of like there is balance, right? Like you have to come in, get your stuff done. Obviously, we're not just partying all the time, but I think that's a huge piece of like, I know our weekly engagement is on, personal development fronts. Watching YouTubes together as a team and having dialogue on what did we learn, what did we see. It's a big piece of it.
What sort of things are you YouTube watching? I'm curious.
So like we
As a team.
all just got back from this conference. I don't know if I think his name is Eric Thomas. He's the hip hop preacher. He just lit this room up. It was so good, and not everyone got to be there, so we kind of took that back and for a couple weeks like watched a couple things and just had some dialogue around what we learned, what we took away, how you not only can use that in your personal life, but where could that show up not only professionally but personally too.
Right. Nice. So what about internships? How, and again, I know you're heavily involved with internships.
I just
for
don't
Northwest
understand
Mutual,
if you
so-
don't have an internship, how you ever figure out what you want to do. Like, we've all had odd jobs, lifeguarding, golf course attendant, whatever it might be, fast food worker, waiting tables, like so many of those soft skills you learn from those amazing, jobs when you are a teenager through college. So important. But like when it comes to start figuring out like who you are and what you want to do, like if you don't test real work, like I don't know how one figures it out.
Yeah.
So I just am so passionate of like at the end of the day, at the end of an internship program, if you figure out this company, this opportunity wasn't for you, that's all you have to lose. Most likely you'll have an awesome professional experience to put on your resume. If you showed up with a good attitude, put in a good effort, most likely you'll have advocates for you in the community that want to get you connected to something. So I just think, I was talking to a sophomore yesterday and he was like, I just don't know. I think I'm going to wait till next summer to get an internship. I'm like, why? Like, just the more I think you can get yourself out there, because you don't know what the real world is like until you get in it, right? We can teach you so much stuff behind the classroom. We can train you on so much stuff, but the more I think you can test drive life, like in a professional way, I feel like it helps figure out, what it is you might want to do upon graduation.
Anybody else want to add in on the internship side?
But I was going to say, I think that the internship also allows you to build your portfolio and have that real world experience. And so I think when, as a recruiter, when you sit down to kind of go through and look at candidates, you look at their resume, you look at, awards and portfolio pieces and those types of things. And I think that just gives you another step up, with regards to being considered for the position. And quite honestly, it shows the additional drive to where, that somebody's really interested and passionate about what it is that they're wanting to do once they've had, internships that kind of showcase the ins and outs. And to your point, they'll learn what they like and what they don't like, and they can kind of go through and figure out, area of focus for a full-time career. Right.
I mean, I don't know if you want to elaborate on that. You're probably closer to it than I am, Michael, with the new student experience that we're trying to put an emphasis on within the college. I don't know if you want to highlight kind of how we're trying to work with students to help guide them, make them aware of the different career opportunities.
One of the strengths, I think, of our program is the student organizations that we have. We have like 20 different student organizations. We have the marketing club and
I'm speaking to the accounting club on the importance of a good LinkedIn profile in about 3 hours.
There you go.
Yes.
And we often have meetings like this, panel discussions where we talk about career opportunities within a particular industry, how to interview on that first job, personal branding, all those types of things. So that's one thing. And then I think given that we're an urban campus, a commuter campus, it's so important that these students get to know each other and share their experiences. So I think the student organization is a big deal, and also our advising and all the kinds of things that we try to do in terms of providing support, internships, career services, all of those things are part of the student experience. And we're striving to do more of that. One outcome that we're very proud of is that our graduation rate is 69%. And that's pretty high. It used to be in the low 40s. So we're being a little more selective with our students, but we're also, I think, nurturing students a lot more than we did before.
Right. Yeah, I mean, something Michael and I just did, we just kind of created a group for all marketing majors and minors where they're all together, around 300 or so total, for us to message them, help nurture them, and kind of bring them along and showcase this video when we got this edited, and just marketing club opportunities, all that sort of stuff to help them understand the importance of HubSpot and things along those lines.
And you have to remember, we have a lot of first generation students. A lot of students who come here, their parents or their inner circle, they may have never been in a corporate setting before. So part of the development of soft skills is important, and just being exposed to people within certain fields goes a long way in moving them along the way. So when they go in on that first interview or they step in on that new job first day, they have a lot of confidence and they end up succeeding.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So I mean, one of the quickly, I know Michael alluded to it, was the new sales certification program, which I know is something definitely you guys would be interested in students being produced through that as well as you. Well, I guess any of you to a certain extent. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on a program like that, and what do you think are some of the strong sort of skills that a student needs to obtain in that particular area? I guess that's a vast question.
That's good. I mean, you said earlier confidence, and I think that it's hard to build without experience. And I think, again, it goes back to, if we're talking about sales, like you're in sales every day.
Sure.
We're all promoting different things we like, we don't like, and, to kind of put a certificate, a stamp of like certification around that, I just think is a really incredible skill no matter what your role is in the firm. You're in sales in some way, shape, or form, whether it's to colleagues selling an idea, whether it's, outwardly, externally in the community. Again, I just think it's another tool in your toolbox to help build confidence towards like getting in that real world situation.
Yeah, I mean, our flyer that advertises that is who needs selling skills, and then the answer is everyone.
Everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
So it doesn't matter what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like kind of mask that used to be sales, is that you're a car salesman and you're this or that.
Right.
And to your point, everybody is selling. Marketing is selling. Social media is selling.
Right.
Like there's always a component
Right.
to that. And I think the biggest thing is presentation skills and getting the reps in that. It's like working out. You've got to, do it consistently. Wow, to get big muscles, right? To be a really good salesperson, you've got to get that confidence and build that by having presentations and doing the exercises to get there. And then it's natural if you have the ability and want to do that.
Right. So let me just toss out a couple more questions here. So what do you see as being kind of important for a student to learn, embrace, or whatever? I guess more marketing tactic specific, kind of, I guess, in demand sort of skill that would be critical for them as a piece of advice, I guess. And maybe we'll just go around the room, kind of. That, not necessarily the soft skills, but something a little more tangible.
I think any form of technology that you can figure out and become an expert in, or not even an expert, just know of, is important, whether it's a CRM, whether it's knowing how to use some form of Adobe.
Okay.
I think anytime you see those skills on a resume, they're definitely...
And that's transferable, right, to then anything technical in a way.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I think if you've proven that you can get on a computer and kind of figure out a system, that definitely means something to people.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and to be general, I agree 100% with you, is any sort of digital strategy and understanding it. And again, you don't have to have done it yourself, but hey, I consume this digital strategy, or I've seen it and I appreciate it, and or it was impactful to me. So that could be social, or it's video, and you consume those. I mean, think about how much that's overtaken any social platform. And I think then touching and understanding a little bit of those types of things, again, in some of your things of Salesforce and some of that, they might not have that experience, but have an understanding from maybe schooling. And then if you are leaning more on a creative vein, any of the Adobe software, Creative Suite, the podcasters and video, like whatever that might be from a specialty, even if it's just touching it a little bit, but highlighting how you've used that, and maybe even if you've taught yourself something, playing around like on your own, like, hey, I have this and I played around with it. And that's probably how a lot of people fell into podcasting and video and things like that.
Well, and to be honest with you, even within my class, for the most part, the students are kind of self-learning. It's not something you can stand up there and lecture on.
Right.
It's like, this is what we're going to do, this is what I need you to do. And
again, it's being curious minded, kind of going back to the soft skills to tie it to the digital, like hard skills, is that knowing kind of what's coming on the forefront and being like, that's interesting. I'm going to learn and kind of teach myself about that, whether it's YouTube videos or doing a free course or come and doing a certification. I think that's what we're seeing a lot in the IT vein and the creative and marketing vein as well. Yeah.
I would say personal branding. I mean, to me, as from a recruiting standpoint, resume, LinkedIn, portfolio, kind of having that overall same look, feel, etc. But even more so with, how are you positioning yourself on social media? Because people can search you, people can find you. I mean, how are you interacting with people when you're out networking and those types of things as well then too? So elevator speeches, obviously kind of learning what you're going to say for that 30-second introduction that you might have the opportunity to kind of chat with folks that may potentially be your new employer, So different things like that. But I think that personal branding kind of encompasses everything across the board. And I think that that's something that, a lot of folks, no matter whether you're a student or whether you've been in the industry for 30 plus years, really are constantly always having to go through and revise accordingly with where they are within their career at that point.
Right. Yeah, I mean, what I tell the students a lot, especially for the seniors and kind of the juniors, is they need to start rethinking about how they're using social media.
Right.
And start thinking about using it no longer from kind of a purely personal perspective, but now also strategically from kind of that branding perspective or whatever. But I don't know if you agree with that 100%.
No, I think it just what they've all said. I just think it's going back to I think in the situation they're in right now, underclassmen, it's hard to see yourself as like an expert in an area. But I'm thinking these students going through these courses you're recommending, they're teaching us. So when we think about like I wasn't exposed to those classes, and we want to hire somebody that has the knowledge. So again, just although you might be in an entry level position, to have the confidence of like, I've tested this, I've done this, it may not be perfect, but here's an idea I have and how we can roll with it. So I think it goes back to, again, like just being proactive with that thought of, we don't expect things to be perfect, but I'd rather have somebody like raising their hand and digging in and learning, versus like, I don't know how to do that, I'm out over here,
Right,
you know?
Right. So let me ask you a question, so that's interesting. So like, all of my students in the social media strategies class have to create that digital portfolio that I mentioned. And everybody, even if you're not on the video production team, you have to create a video within this class that you showcase on your digital portfolio. Now, I know some students are kind of embarrassed because it may not have been A quality, and they want to go and remove it because they don't think it looks good. I mean, is it really just how they're positioning it, that this was my first attempt at Adobe Premiere or Final? I mean, what are your thoughts, Avery? I mean, should they remove it, or should they just position it as my first?
I don't know. I mean, on one side, I want to say put your best face forward.
Sure.
But I think, you know, be okay to showcase some of your things. I don't know. I can't answer that. I'm
Well,
kind of
I
torn.
guess if you're going for a video production job, that's
Right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
and
Right.
that's where I was
Maybe
toying
that's
with
fair.
too.
Maybe that's
Is that
fair.
if
Yeah.
that's what you want to be in, and
Specific.
if you're not confident that it's your best work, remove
Yes,
it.
Yeah.
I don't
exactly.
care what portfolio and where your specialty is,
Yeah.
because it's going to show up when somebody questions you,
Right.
and you're going to have a lack of confidence, and that is going to not translate well. But if you are someone that is a little more general and like, hey, I took this class, I'd never done it, it was really exciting, I got out of my comfort zone, but it was fun, and I know it might not be, you know, A quality work,
Right.
but I really enjoyed and
That's
I
right.
learned this. Like, that to me would be really appealing.
Right.
So I think it's, again, that's why I understand
Yeah.
why you flip-flopped.
Yeah.
It's depending on where you're positioning.
Right.
And it's always putting, what do you put in your portfolio, and that is always very subjective.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I have
That's
a
very true.
question about graduate school. You know, we have an MBA program, but you probably read some articles about the downfall of the MBA program and programs, and some are going out of business and some have low enrollments. And I know you got an MBA. So from your perspective, is there real value added to having an MBA? And, you know, on your jobs, you see people going back, and if so, do they benefit?
And be
from
careful
that?
how you answer this in front of some academics.
I think it all depends on what type of position you're looking for. So, I mean, I know some companies strongly encourage it, and others are just more so looking for the experience, like the real world experience. And I think that we saw a big shift in that with 2008, right? So that even, 2011, 2012, there was not that many positions that were available. Unemployment was huge. So a lot of the folks that were graduating with their undergrad immediately went in to get their MBA because they weren't finding jobs in the market when they were kind of coming through and coming out. So, and I think that there's, kind of the, if you did undergrad and then you went straight for an MBA, but you don't have that real world experience,
Right.
that may have hurt some people, with regards to new opportunities when they came out with their MBA, just because they weren't focusing in on how to apply what they're learning in the school setting with, real world aspect.
That was one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. I went straight through,
Yeah.
way back, bachelor's, MBA, had really no work experience. So the first 3 or 4 years out, I really struggled. So I could see where take 5 years off,
Right.
get that relevant work experience, and then come back and get an MBA.
Right.
And everything is much clearer. You really understand how to apply those real world situations to the theory.
Well, and then you can specialize it as well,
Right.
so that it
Right.
really is enhancing your career to the next
Because
level.
you maybe know what you want to focus on.
Yeah, and
Right.
I think that's where I'm seeing it being utilized more and more, is that enhancement to the next level. And the good news is that sometimes your employers will pay for it.
That's
Right.
right.
So,
always
so that is maybe, a good approach to do that, because they know that that's going to be an investment for them as well.
And I think it's back to industry specific. I think more education is always better, right? But if you go straight into it, don't have that relevant experience, like we're as a company not going to pay for an MBA, we definitely encourage it, but what we'll pay for is more industry specific continuing education. Where an MBA tends to be a little bit more broad. Again, going back to an accountant, you probably are looking for an accountant with a CPA versus an MBA, right? So I think it just depends on, kind of your vision and the route that you want to go, and how specific the industry and the consumers are looking at your certifications.
Well, and I think in the world of marketing, so much has changed within such a short period of time that's where, the certificate classes that UMSL offers is able to go through and give people that have been in the work industry for 10 or 15 years that weren't learning about search and content management and those types of things when they were going through and getting their undergrad. It gives them the ability to kind of go through and learn all of the new tools that are coming through and the way that we have to kind of go through and position everything. So I think that was one of the things that was a huge selling point to a lot of the people here in St. Louis was I can go through and I can get certificates with regards to different aspects of it, and be a little bit smarter in the real world setting.
Right. And one other thing I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think of the importance of like mentorship?
Huge.
Do you try to, do you do mentoring? Do you try to help foster that sort of environment? I know you've mentored some of our students, Sarah.
Yeah, I personally have a mentor that I meet with on a quarterly basis.
So you do yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I think you're never too experienced to have a mentor. I think you
That's
can
a great
always
piece
have.
of advice.
I think you can always have someone that's giving you some advice from a different perspective than you have. So I hope I have one forever. And then I am always happy to take on mentees. People who are interested in learning kind of how I got where I am and what that path would look like for them, and just looking for some encouragement. Whether it's how do I negotiate my first job offer? What should my LinkedIn say? How do you even look for a job? Is a conversation I have with a lot of people. So I think it's important to not be afraid to reach out, because everybody can remember being that person right out of college and just needing some help.
Yeah, I think to piggyback on that, not just even specific to a one-person mentor, but just networking in general. So important, one-to-one, like a mentor-mentee, or just being involved in the community and things that you're interested in, because you don't know what that relationship at that moment is going to give you then 5 years, 10 years down the road, and how your paths might cross. And I think that's so important, and we are kind of a big city but small town, and people really want to help people.
Right.
I mean, they really do. And so by having that kind of soft or warm introduction really helps then, open up a lot of doors.
Well, I always tell people, if there's a specific company or an industry that you're really excited about, reach out to people. Use LinkedIn to reach out to folks that are either there at that company or within that industry. Reach out to them and see if you can grab, 30-minute coffee with them. And the reality of it is everybody has been in their shoes at some point, right? We all had to get our start somehow. So to your point, it's that big city, small town type feel to where most people are always willing to kind of go through and, be able to build that relationship with folks and just kind of help them to figure out how they may have done it and been successful as to how that might help them.
I think it goes back to a lot of times students worry about the lack of experience on their resume, but you've mentioned so many things of ways to get involved on campus, and within that I'm sure you have, you're presenting, but you have different presenters, it just goes back to we're looking for what did you do besides just go to school? That's not just enough to show up to your 12, 15, 18 credit hours. The experiences that you're getting doesn't just have to be in a professional job or internship setting. So we always ask, what are you doing besides just going to school? And being a part of an active member in the marketing club is just as great to me as being a lifeguard for a summer. It's probably even maybe a notch up.
I would say related to mentor, there are a lot of companies that have formal programs. We have a phenomenal fellowship program that has a very formalized mentorship kind of identification and, regular check-ins and things like that. And we even have more of a reverse mentorship situation sometimes too. So, going back to you guys on the faculty side that learn from your students, it's the same concept. So, I can't imagine a situation where it wouldn't make sense. So finding somebody you can learn from is huge.
Right. No, I love that part of my digital strategies class where my students get up, they have to present every class period on something in the world of digital social. I sit back as a student, and I'm usually learning from them because, again, I can't stay on top of all this stuff. So, well, first of all, I just want to thank everybody for giving their time. I think this has been great. I think it's been very valuable. And this, I think, would be some great advice to give our students. And just want to thank each and every one. I don't know if anybody wants to jump in with anything that maybe we missed that you wanted to say. I think we all I think we hit all the main points.
Oh, yeah.
Michael, I don't know if you want to add anything.